Blue Lock first debuted in August 2018 and has been ongoing for 5 years strong, cementing itself as one of the most hyped sports mangas out there. With a total of 5 arcs so far, 4 of which have been animated, this series has come a long way from its roots, and honestly is growing at the rate it deserves. So today, I thought it'd be fun to rank every single Blue Lock arc from worst to best. Now before we dive in, this ranking is purely based on my opinion and my friends, so don't take it as the objective truth. If you disagree, that's cool, let me know your rankings in the comments. Also, make sure to check out BAMBI's socials and support her content. It's genuinely hilarious and peak, and I appreciate her for being a part of the video. And hey, if you enjoy the video, consider subscribing, it helps a lot. With that being said, let's get right into it. Kicking things off, we got what I consider to be the first actual arc of Blue Lock, the first selection, and unfortunately, it lands at the bottom of my ranking as the worst arc. Taking place from chapters 5 to 38, this arc covers Blue Lock's first real elimination tournament. Each of the 5 wings participated in a round-robin style tournament, playing against a different team in all 5 matches, and by the end, only the top 2 teams from each stratum would survive while everyone else was eliminated. Now I want to make this clear, this arc was necessary. It set the foundation for everything that followed and gave tons of important developments, but as much as I respect its role in the story, I just cannot put it above any of the other arcs. It simply wasn't meant to be as crazy, which is understandable. That said, before I break down why it ranks last, let's appreciate what it did well, because OG Blue Lock just hits different with that nostalgia factor. One of the best things about this arc was the introduction of the comeback system, which allowed top goal scorers to pass even if their team lost. Now no, I did not enjoy Kuon and his Little Betrayal arc, but Blue Lock systems like this always hit differently. These alternate paths to survival like the wild card ended up giving us some of the best characters in the series, like Kunigami and Baru. Speaking of Baru and Kunigami, let's talk about their first appearances. Baru was hilarious looking, visibly thinner and honestly pretty goofy compared to the monster we know today. While he served as an excellent wake-up call for Isagi and Team Z, I just didn't find his presence to be as enjoyable as I do now. And then there's Kunigami, I mean what a guy he used to be. Back in the first selection, he felt so much more like a long-term threat and ally. No, I'm not saying this anti-hero Kunigami isn't a beast, he's actually scored in nearly every match of the NEL, but something about his original portrayal just hits way harder. Plus, I just miss seeing him interact with Isagi and the others like homies. And of course, we cannot forget the man himself, Nagi Seishiro. At the time, he was the biggest threat in Blue Lock, casually scoring banger after banger like it was nothing to him. Not only did he bring insane hype, but he also forced the others to evolve, making him even more likable as a character. At the end of the day, the first selection was never meant to be the craziest arc. It was about setting up the core concepts, rivalries, and stakes of Blue Lock. So its last place ranking isn't because it's bad, it's just because every other arc managed to push the intensity and storytelling to even greater heights. Sliding into the second worst spot on the list, we've got the third selection, an arc that had some great ideas and key moments, but ultimately just felt like a needed stepping stone. Structurally, it's unique. The remaining 35 players are brought together to prove they can coexist with Blue Lock's top 6, Rin, Shiro, Katasu, Otoya, Yukimiya, and Nagi. The goal, to earn a spot in the Blue Lock 11 and face off against Japan's U20 team. After the players are grouped, Ego splits the top 6 into 3 duos, Team A, B, and C. The remaining 29 strikers must choose which of the 3 teams they want to join, getting only one match to prove themselves. This arc introduced and explored some huge concepts like luck, flow, and metavision, building serious hype for the future of the series. It was the perfect opportunity for Isagi to break through and unlock his instinctual playstyle, leading to the birth of metavision. His dynamic with Hiyori also began here in full force, not through just crazy plays, but through genuine bonding, advice, and support. Hiyori became the first player to truly understand Isagi's thought process, helping him slow down the game mentally and find clarity in the chaos. It was the connection that allowed him to start reading the field in real time, and it all built up to one of his biggest flexes, poaching a goal between Rin and Shiro, proving that he could compete with even the top monsters. Speaking of which, Shiro, my favorite character in the entire series, really made his presence known in this arc. He was just different. His skill, mindset, and entire way of playing made it super obvious that he could not work well with others, especially someone like Itoshi Rin. They were both insanely talented, but the way they saw football, completely different. And honestly, their clashing was one of my favorite parts of this whole arc. It showed how even in a team setting, Shiro was pure chaos incarnate. It also pointed out some of Itoshi Rin's flaws, like him being unable to recognize when other people do well, which Shiro himself pointed out. We also get a few new characters thrown into the mix, not super important ones, but they were cool side pieces that added some extra flavor. And man, I still wish we got to see Team A4 versus Team C3. That match had so much potential. Korona, Kiyori, and Tokumitsu going up against Batara, Zantetsu, and Doji. That would have been awesome to see considering what the episode Nagi manga has shown us, and maybe we'll see it in the future. At the end of the day, the third selection wasn't the flashiest or the most intense, but it did what it needed to do. It set the stage, Isagi leveled up, Shido stood out as a complete wildcard, and Hiyori finally started to matter, not just as a player, but as someone who really was friends with Isagi. It's a brief arc, but one that still moved the story forward in a meaningful way. Up next in the ranking, and to no surprise, we have the second selection arc in my third place spot. The first thing that makes it amazing to me is how personal and tight everything felt. The smaller teams in field forced everyone to step up as individuals, because if you don't show your worth, win or lose, you'll be left behind. One of the things I love most about this arc is how it pushed the characters out of their comfort zones. Right from the jump, we get Isagi and Bachara splitting up, and that sets the tone for this entire arc. Bachara had to find his own monster and reason to play, meanwhile Isagi had to stop relying on others and start creating plays on his own. At the same time, you've got Nagi and Ryo splitting up too as a parallel. They were an inseparable duo before this, but now both of them have to figure out who they are without the other. It's really cool between the duos, and it resulted in a major but unique growth for both parties. We're then introduced to the top 3 players, Itoshirin, Tokumitsu, and Aryu, and it immediately feels like an entirely new level of play. And then you've got the 3v3 matches, which are easily some of the best in the whole series. The second match with Isagi, Nagi, and Baru versus Chikari, Ryo, and Kunigami is one of my favorites in the series, not just because of the stakes, but its action and implications for the future. A hugely underrated part of this arc is actually the Naruhayo match in my opinion. It wasn't the flashiest, but it was so important and raw for Isagi's character growth. He was cornered and had to outthink someone very similar to him, and that had him figured all out. By the end of it, Isagi's gone through real growth and genuinely can stand as a unique player. Just when things were slowing down though and wrapping up, Shido Ryuze was introduced, and with that, a regular in the series, Kunigami was eliminated. That plot twist right there at the end hit me so hard, and really raised the hype leading into the third selection, with not only a new character, but a known one lost. Overall, I have very little gripes about the second selection. It was super fast paced, no wasted scenes, and had a whole lot of character development packed into a short time. It's really one of the cleanest arcs in the story. Finally, moving into my second favorite arc in Blue Lock, we have the new Egoist League, or the NEL for short. This arc is easily the biggest and most ambitious one we've seen in the series so far. After the Japan U20 match, Blue Lock wasn't just a controversial experiment anymore, it became a global football sensation. With Igano in full control of Japanese national team and tons of new funding coming in, he took things to an entirely new level. He turned Blue Lock into a world stage training ground, mixing competition with full-on entertainment. Not only are their players fighting to reach the top, but the whole world is watching their every move. The general concept behind the NEL is just too good. The players who made it past the third selection, along with the Japan U20 regulars, get to choose a country to train under, each one based on a top European league. France, Germany, England, Italy, and Spain. Depending on where they go, they train with the U20 level pros from that country and get mentored by a master striker who defines that nation's play style. It's honestly the most realistic and high-stakes setup the series has had so far, and after training, we get these intense round-robin matchups where the Blue Lock players and actual pros clash to prove who's worthy of joining Japan's U20 World Cup team. Understandably, this arc has been hated on during its run for being inconsistent or predictable, and while I agree to an extent, I think too many people just compare it directly to the U20 Japan arc. And sure, the U20 arc was cleaner and more focused, but let's not forget, the new Egoist League is a setup arc. It's here to bridge the gap to something even bigger, the actual U20 World Cup arc. Comparing it to an arc that had a quarter of the chapters and much different stakes isn't exactly fair. Still, I won't dismiss the real issues that this arc faced, because they do exist. The NEL though is about evolution, growth, and development to me. It's about preparing the players for their final form. Moments like Kaiser's bicycle kick, Isagi's pass to Yuki Miya, Hiyori's flow awakening, and Rin's shaking off Sai's shadow, they are all major payoffs for the long-term build-up, and that's where this arc truly shines. And honestly, the character backstories in this arc were some of the most important in the entire series. Getting to learn more about Kaiser's past and how it shaped his arrogance and manipulation. That's his dependency and why he clings so hard to people. Yukimiya's battle with his vision and desperation to be seen, and Hiyori's emotional conflict with his parents and identity. These were not just filler. These stories gave real depth to the matches and characters. You weren't just watching a goal get scored or an assist be made, you were watching a character fight for their life, their dream, their sense of self. That's what makes the NEL so emotionally layered. The introduction of the Blue Lock auction was also another genius move by the author. Players aren't just ranked by Ego's metrics or bias systems anymore. It's based on real club offers tied to their on-field performance. You score, you assist, then you shine and rise. And this added layer of economic value makes every single moment in the match matter so much more to us. And to touch back on the repetition critique, yes, the formula is starting to show in my opinion. Last minute goals, rivals putting their differences aside, we've seen it before, but that does not make it bad. It just means we're in the middle stretch of the story, where things naturally slow down a bit while still stacking emotional and narrative payoffs for what's to come. So yes, I do understand that the NEL isn't as tight or clean as the U20 arc, and the stakes aren't as dramatic, but the world building, character growth, and technical depth it brings to the game are easily some of the best in the entire series. This arc is the reason I'm so excited for what's coming next. It laid the groundwork for everything the U20 World Cup is about to deliver, and when that hits, I feel like the NEL is going to be even more important in hindsight.
And now on to one of the fan favorite arcs of the manga, and this is for good reason. It's the Japan's U20 team versus Blue Lock. Unlike the previous selections where the egoists looked out for themselves, this was the first time all of Blue Lock came together as a team to fight for their joint survival. If they lost, Blue Lock was done, and if they won, they would take over Japan's national team. The stakes couldn't have been higher, and the anticipation leading up to this match was truly insane. We also finally got to see Itoshi Sai in full action, the new Gen 11 midfielder. He truly showed us the gap between the Blue Lockers and world class. Not only did he score a goal for himself, but he also personally chose Shido as his striker, fully utilizing his chaotic talents. This team-up also ended up serving us 2 incredible goals, and one of the best things this arc did was tying everything together. So bringing Shido and Baro's wild and predictable playstyles into the spotlight. We also get to see Chigiri struggle with his leg, Hiyori's hidden talent, and we also get deeper dives into both of the Itoshi brothers, and of course our main character Isagi. Beyond the individual performances, this arc was truly a turning point for the relationships between the players. Blue Lock had spent the entire series breaking each other down, but this time they actually had to build each other up. Isagi and Rin's rivalry reached new heights as they clashed and adapted to outplay one another, while Baro, once a lone king, found his ways to fit into a team without sacrificing his ego. And even those who weren't in the spotlight, like Hiyori, had crucial roles to play. The chemistry and evolving bonds between these players set the foundation for what Blue Lock would become. Another thing this arc does incredibly well is the perspective change, forcing a high pace and making everything feel even more alive. One moment it was Rin's game, then Isagi's, and then Baro's, leaving us as readers always on the edge to see what comes next, and every major player having their defining moment. Like I mentioned earlier, the goals in this match were truly some of the best we have seen this far, with Shido's bicycle kick serving as one of the most hype moments in the entire series. And speaking of goals, we cannot speak about the U20 arc without mentioning Isagi's goal. After struggling with the concept of luck throughout Blue Lock, this was the moment where he finally grasped it, positioning himself in the perfect place at the perfect time to seize his own fate. The goal was proof of his evolution, and it would shape his approach to the game going forward. The story, the pacing, and the character development in the U20 arc were truly perfection. This makes it one of the greatest sports manga matches of all time, at least in my opinion. And overnight, our egoist went from an experiment to a global sensation, setting the stage perfectly for the arc to come, the Neo Egoist League.
And with that, all the Blue Lock arcs have been ranked from worst to best. Make sure to drop a comment below with your favorite arc and why that might be. Huge shout out to my friend BAMBI once again for joining me in the video. Make sure to check out all her socials and support her content, which will be linked down below. As always, if you enjoyed the video, don't forget to leave a like, drop a comment, and subscribe to the channel for more Blue Lock content. It really helps me out and lets me keep making videos like this. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you in the next one very shortly.